Well, let's now go to something we know more about, and that is the Green Party's nominee for president appears to be Ralph Nader. First of all, you are one of the national leaders of the Green Party. What is the Green Party?
We're a party here in California. We're around the country. We're in 76 countries around the planet. Ecology, social justice, grassroots democracy, and nonviolence, leading with key values that we think are really interconnected. We see no discussion of an ecological economics, for example. We see no discussion of corporate power. What a sorry state. We just had the comment here that, oh, Clinton has done okay on unemployment. When unemployment goes down and the markets go crazy and they're complaining and there's no commentary for either of the candidates, what a sorry state of politics now. So what we're trying to do in this country is raise issues that aren't being raised and give people a choice. The reason that we have Ralph Nader, two levels. Number one, to build the infrastructure for a progressive party in this country. There is not a progressive party. There should be that kind of alternative. We don't have it. Running a presidential campaign helps us get ballot status around the country. It helps us get federal funding. It lets people know that we're out there, all of that. So we're building for the long term, for the year 2000, when we'll have more of an infrastructure in place to run a more competitive campaign and to build our state-by-state organizations. Second of all, we think that a lot of the social issues that we're losing on, like 187, for example, like CCRI this year, the fight, the social issues, we will continue to lose on those if everybody is scrambling for crumbs on the bottom and they don't recognize that all the power and the wealth is at the top. Ralph Nader educates about corporate power. You know, Clinton last week passed this thing on the welfare deforum, taking advantage of the people at the bottom of the economy. He doesn't mention a word about corporate welfare. We think that that should be the central issue, and that's why we're in this campaign.
And you're in this campaign, I understand, in 12 states right now? How many states do you figure you'll be in between now and time for us to
We've
decide?
already got Nader on in 12 states. We'll have him in about 30 states with his name on the ballot. In the majority of the rest of the states, he'll be a write-in. So in almost every state, people will be able to vote for him. We also think we'll have him on enough ballots to put him into the debates. You put Ralph Nader on the debates next to Clinton Dole, this country is going to have a wake-up call.
Saying that, Bill Kerrick, can this wake-up call he's talking about with Ralph Nader take from Bill Clinton's left and cause some concern in the White House?
Well, I think, you know, the history of minor party candidates in the country is pretty clear. Very often they generate some interest and push some ideas, but very seldom they actually attract a lot of votes and when you get to election day. And I think the choice the voters fundamentally have to make is, do you want to re-elect President Clinton, or do you want to go with Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich and Trent Lott and the rest of that agenda and hand over the country to the far right wing? And that's the choice, the fundamental choice we have to make. And you know, I think it's too important for, you know, symbolic party building efforts instead of getting serious and picking a president.
What about that, Michael?
If that were the choice, I think it'd be interesting. I think that's what the Democratic Party spin doctors are putting on this. Frankly,
as opposed to the Green Party spin doctors.
Of course. Listen. Tell me if this is tell me if this is spin. GATT, NAFTA, telecommunications, anti-terrorism, welfare reform, the failure to push single payer. Essentially what we had is Bill Clinton has pushed a moderate Republican agenda while he's been in the White House. If there was any real significant difference, it would be one thing. But on the fundamental financial power questions, Clinton's got a cabinet full of Wall Street people, and you don't really have anybody there who's talking about a real alternative. You know, they're struggling to try and make it seem like there's...
like security litigation reform, on issues like product liability, the president vetoed both of those.
And he did that because...
vetoed the Republican budget with draconian Republican budget, and if he's not there, nobody's going to veto it. Bob Dole's going to sign it.
Let me finish the point. He did the first couple of things that you're talking about because Ralph Nader's in the race and he's scared of him. But for the long run, if this very narrow choice, and yes, there are some differences, but if this very narrow choice is all we have in the country at this point, we're in big trouble. And that's why it's time for something different. And when you vote for Nader, what you're saying is the political system has to be expanded, have more choices. The rest of the world has multi-party democracy and proportional representation. It's time now for the United States to join the rest of the world and have a political system that represents the diversity of views.
Patrick?
I'd like to just, I think the point is, and I think that people ought to understand this, if you take the axis between, particularly in Congress, Democrats and Republicans on social issues or whatever they identify themselves ideologically, there are very sharp differences. It appears to be more differences than there are. Because if you take the other, which you're referring to, if you take the other axis, which is what I would put on the top, special interest in ordinary people, the interests of the people, they're all clustered together. That's not a division. And the fact is that nobody's spoken to that. We saw what happened earlier in the year when Pat Buchanan, of all people, got out there and stirred things up over this question of, in part, over what's happened to incomes. Yeah, unemployment is down, But everything that's happened to unemployment, we've also had straight decline in people's incomes. None of this is getting discussed. None of it is being discussed for the very reason you're saying. So the fact is, what appears to be differences are only on one level, not the other. But I'd like to ask a question. I read in Nader's piece in The Nation, and he said he wasn't going to take campaign contributions. So how the hell can you run a campaign without taking campaign? I mean, even small ones. You could take small ones. I mean, how do you plan to run a campaign if you're not going to let people give money?
What we're doing is, rather than Mr. Nader collecting money, individual Nader for President committees in state by state are giving money. And I'm sure when the Green Party number is on the screen here, people can call in and try and find out where they can give money to. Part of the model here is, rather than a candidate going out and saying, I'm the greatest, I'm the candidate, follow me, do as I say, Nader is trying to say the whole model, because we think that we are dominated by multinational corporations in the society, that it's top down. So the campaign is going to try and practice what it preaches, and it is us who are raising and spending the money and determining where it goes. So it's a different way of doing politics, hopefully a different model for electoral politics in the 21st century.
Rosalie?
Well, first of all, let me make a comment about spin. I think that the Republican Party is making a big mistake by allowing the Democratic Party to define Dole by Gingrich and Lott, as you just did, and the Republican Party is not defining Clinton by those in his administration are very much to the left, like Shalala and Panetta and other people in his administration. I think they'd be wise to do that, because there is some fear that the president is running to the center to get elected, but he will run to the left after he is elected and give in to the impulses of the Ickeys and the others in his administration. But the question that I have for you is...
That's what Michael wants him to do.
I'm aware of that. That's why I raised the issue, Bill. But the question that I have for you is, who will you be running against when you're running? Will your campaign commercials, your negative ones, because I'm sure you're going to have those, be directed against both Clinton and Dole?
What we're trying to do, Clinton and Dole for us really are figureheads with makeup for multinationals. That's how we see things right now. So rather than attacking Clinton and Dole as individuals, we're trying to attack a system, a systemic problem of a lack of democracy, a lack of voice. And to the extent that it's negative, it's going to be a negative criticism of that system, not attacking the individuals. And frankly, if judging by the phone calls on our Green Party line in the last couple of weeks, Clinton is doing the best job he can for us. What he's done on welfare, we have Democrat after Democrat calling in and say, I've been giving money to the Democratic Party for years, I've been funding the Democratic Party for years, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I can't look myself in the mirror. So we don't have to do the negative stuff on these people. They're doing it for themselves because they're part of a system that, as Nader says, is already spoiled.
Cynthia?
Well, just pragmatically, if I'm addressing a group of, say, minority voters, and they're asking me about, who they ought to vote for and why, what should I tell them about your party? Why do they vote for you?
What we would say is that at this point, people that have been traditionally taken for granted by the Democrats and have had nowhere else to go are getting less and less attention from the Democrats. You saw what Clinton did to Jesse Jackson a couple of years ago, and when you look at California, 187, you look at the ability to mount the campaign against CCRI. The reason that the Democrats don't have an answer in those cases is that they won't talk about the maldistribution of wealth and power in the country. So if you are in a so-called minority group, your interests are going to continue to be negated, because ultimately it's going to be easier to scapegoat you against another group, The Republicans may do it, the Democrats say, oh, we shouldn't do it, but they won't attack the problem at the top, so they don't have a real answer. They're just going to be seen as bleeding hearts, but without any real critique of the system. So we are the party that's out there critiquing the system, not just complaining that things are bad, but saying until you change the power structure, how are you going to deal with the people at the bottom?
But
you can't do it.
As Bill says, the bottom line is that the choice is between Bob Dole and Bill Clinton.
No, the choice is between staying with only having choices between Clinton and Dole or having something else. As long as you keep giving these people power, but they'll take you for granted, you've got nothing. You vote for Bill Clinton and he walks away from you after the election and you've done nothing. You vote against him or you vote against Dole. And then you've made a statement that they can't take you for granted anymore. We've had Green parties in government in Europe for 15 years. And the more that they have taken from the Social Democrats, they take their power, that moves the Social Democratic parties and even the Christian Democratic parties. And that's how we've moved policies. So in this country, although we have a different electoral system, we're at a point where we think a vote against the two-party structure is a vote for a real change. And again, just to close, the so-called minority groups are going to lose on issues as long as the corporate power stuff is not confronted. And that's what we're about. And that's what Ralph Nader is so perfect for.